Has anyone else noticed that whenever we get a black main character in TV shows nowadays, they usually look like this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this? Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back. It is 2023, the first video of 2023. We have a slightly new set. It's actually a set in progress. Be prepared for a lot of changes throughout the next month and a half. We're going to try and elevate things for 2023, but that's besides the point. What you came here for. Today we're talking about something that I personally notice quite often when it comes to just general representation of Black and also just non-white characters in television and media. And this conversation is by no means a new one. I feel like it's been talked about for quite a while, especially in the commentary sphere, but I feel like what brought it back into the forefront of my mind was just looking back at the shows that we got last year and already with this year with Ginny and Georgia coming out this week. With the trend of seeing more people of color being cast in television and movie roles, which is great, but when you look at the people that are being cast, it seems to skew a little light-skinned. And in this video, we're gonna try and break down why that is, along with getting into larger concepts like colorism, the different portrayal of lighter and darker skinned people in media, and what this all means to society, aspiring actors, and just the industry of entertainment overall. So we have a lot to talk about, and if you're new around here, I definitely recommend you hit that subscribe button to join the Rummates. It's been a while since I called you that, huh? We're actually nearing 200K, which is crazy because we hit 100K around February of last year. So definitely join our little collective over here. We cover all things TV, fashion, pop culture, and just entertainment as a whole. Also, it means so much if you could leave a like on this video because it helps out so much with the YouTube algorithm. And it's been a while since I've done this too, but I'll give you a second to actually hit that like button while I show off my cloud mouse pad. Wow. When raindrops fell. You like the video? Okay, thank you. And also, I have an Instagram, a TikTok, and a Twitter, all at Imurgency. We're really close to 10K on Instagram, really close to 300K on TikTok, so do what you need to do. But enough self-promo, let's actually get into this video topic. So really quick, before we dive into this, I do want to have the preface because I feel like because of the nature of this video and the examples and people we're going to be talking about, I just want to say that this video and anything in this video is not meant to discredit or knock the talent of any of the actors or talent mentioned, as I feel like they're all really deserving of their roles. They're great at their jobs, and I'm positive they are some of the hardest working people in the industry. And as Black people and people of color, just them being on screen is moving the needle for people of color as a whole in media and entertainment. So I just want to get that out the way. Let's actually dive into this. So like I was saying before, there is a trend in television and media where when it comes to giving representation to Black people and other people of color, the actors that they cast for these roles are usually lighter skinned Black people and people of color, especially when it comes to main characters that are either women or femme presenting. Like think Euphoria, Gossip Girl, Ginny and Georgia, Heartbreak High. The list honestly goes on and on and on, where you have these main characters or main supporting characters that are generally lighter skinned, and what happens oftentimes is that's just categorized as that's Black representation. Like that's it. I feel like in casting directors' minds, when they've seen for the past like 10-15 years the push for more Black representation or just representation of people of color, they look across the board and be like, I see people are asking for more color in our media. We don't want to cast too many of them. Let's find someone who looks ethnically ambiguous, who can fit under multiple groups if need be. So then we only have to cast one or maybe two of them in the entire show. Like, I feel like that's how they're thinking because that's just how it's been up until like very recently. Like, I just feel like the industry has been so thirsty for racially ambiguous talent. And let's talk about why this is a conversation. Why is this a big deal? I can already feel some people in the comment section being like, why are you making everything about race? Like, just be happy you have people on screen. Like, let's break this down a little bit. In order to understand why this is a conversation now, it's important to look at the history behind just colorism and representation in America. And yes, I'm saying America specifically because I honestly am not the most informed about how this works in other countries. So we're sticking to America right now. But historically, when you go back, the color of your skin, even within the Black community, has had its own benefits and drawbacks in America. In times of slavery, lighter skinned people or light skins were often the product of a Black slave being oftentimes abused by a white master. I hate all of that. And their children would come out lighter skinned. And those children, because they were the offspring of the white man, would often get preferential treatment as opposed to in comparison to other black people with darker skin. Then we fast forward to post-slavery to things like the paper bag test that was used against black people, specifically when it came to hiring practices and just spaces overall, where essentially if your skin color was lighter than a paper bag, then you could be considered to be in these spaces, to be hired for these positions. But if you're darker than that, then you're kind of shit out of luck. And of course, with years and years and generations of this distance or separation being created even within black people just based on the color of your skin as a black person, it's created these weird dynamics that are still very much seen today. And you can honestly see bits of colorism everywhere, whether that be seeing light-skinned black people or just lighter skinned people of color be more desirable than darker skinned people, or the whole concept of there being like a light skin, a brown skin, and a dark skin. So again, still in modern day, like hiring practices and just positions in entertainment, going to lighter skinned people because they're seen as more palatable or safer than darker skinned people, which is wild to me because that just outwardly insinuates so many things about darker skinned people, or just how you interpret black people based on the color of their skin. Like, what do you really mean a lighter skinned black person is more palatable and safer than a dark skinned black person? Like, what do you mean safe? Like, what exactly do you mean by that? Please break that down for me. What's the difference? Actually, I'll tell you the difference. Society has deemed lighter skinned people as being more safe because phenotypically they're closer to presenting as white. So white people in society see that as being like, oh, you're a little bit closer to me. You got a little spice to you. You got something a little different to you, but you know, you're close enough. You don't like those people derogatory. And I feel like that's so insidious because I feel like, again, that's implying that darker skinned people are the opposite of safe, palatable, comfortable, good black people. And this colorism both inside and outside the community has of course created a bunch of different experiences in the general black experience, which is where the conversation today about lighter skinned black people and people of color being like the face of minorities in media and television sort of starts. I have written here that it's important to have a range of skin tones when it comes to representation of non-white and black people in media, because specifically for black people, being black is not a monolithic experience, and your experience and things that you deal with on a day-to-day may vary even amongst your own race, depending on how deep or light your skin tone is. And I feel like it's true that some black people don't face racism and prejudice the same way that others do, because of one, the color of their skin, and two, their passability. Meghan Markle is a mixed race black woman, very fair skin, but she even says in her documentary that before she became part of the royal family, most people never treated her like a black woman, and that she never had to talk about racism in America, and that her race was never really an issue for her, and that it wasn't until she married into the royal family, and that she became like the first black royalty, that her race became an issue. And I feel like that's important for many different reasons, but namely when it comes to just representation in media, I feel like Meghan Markle's story and experience is not unique, in the sense that I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. So when it comes to representing black characters or other people of color in television and media, specifically when the stories revolve around like the black experience, I feel like only casting lighter skinned people of color isn't necessarily making the moves that you think it is. And again, that's not to say that lighter skinned people don't deserve their roles and should not be cast in these roles. I'm just saying that there needs to be more holistic representation when it comes to black characters and other characters of color, because there is no one size fits all approach for just representation of people of color. Like, because of the way race in America has been set up, you can tell so many different stories that can mean so many different things depending on who you cast. And on the flip side, for shows that don't really have to do with race but just have people of color as the characters in the show, it just shows that there's more opportunity out there for all black people. Because I feel like what often happens now when it comes to the diversity of skin color in representation is that when it comes to casting black people overall, lighter skinned black people are cast in the roles of like the main character, the protagonist, the good character. And in the case where darker skinned black and non-white characters are cast, they're either cast as like the cool character, you know, the rebel, the villain, the mischievous one. And of course that isn't always the case. But that sort of dynamic goes all the way back to things like minstrel shows back in the day. And one recent example of this happened with the casting of Wednesday. There was a big scandal that came out with that, with Tim Burton only casting with the two main black characters on the cast initially playing like the antagonist or the villain, with Bianca, a darker skinned black woman, being Wednesday's antagonist, and I'm blanking on the boy's name, but the black boy who ruined the dance being the other antagonist, also being a darker skinned black man. And that came with its own different scandal because Tim Burton has been known to not include black people in his works because they didn't fit his aesthetic or whatever. That's a whole different video. He said like any role that doesn't like outright require a person of color is inherently a white role. All right, Tim Burton. And ever since, I've been looking at Tim Burton crooked. But let's talk about what this lack of representation within our communities means about society as a whole. Well, first, the media that we consume and create is often a reflection of our society at the time, which is also why I go so hard for different forms of representation in media. So seeing colorism play out in our media today in these shows with the casting is telling for how we navigate things in real life. And I feel like another reason why this is important is because when it comes to things like representation, it can be for people that are already established and are older, but more often than not, representation is really impactful for younger generations, for people that are up and coming. So when it comes to up and coming talent, up and coming actors, seeing a lot of these roles for Black people and people of color be cast by lighter skinned people does send a message to other aspiring non-white actors of where the industry's priorities lie. And for aspiring actors of color, it's already hard enough to get your foot in the door and to be taken seriously in the industry. And actors with darker complexions already face a unique struggle of not only combating the social barrier of racism, but also colorism as well. So with that, like I said, it can be really discouraging for actors and other talent who have the skills and can be the best actor in the room, but aren't just given the same attention, opportunities, and really time of day as other actors, just because that's not what the casting director is looking for, what the casting director had in mind for like a Black person of color on their show or TV or whatever. And again, I feel like I want to focus on that last part because I've been talking a lot about colorism within the community, but when it comes to casting, none of this is the fault of Black actors with lighter complexions. Because again, everyone's trying to get an opportunity, but it's the casting directors and the people that are making decisions on who are getting those roles that are really to blame. And that should really be taking the heat for this because it's not the actors themselves that are casting themselves for these roles. Like, they don't get a decision. Like, they didn't choose who made the final cut. They do get the option to take the role or not. And I feel like to a certain extent that is on them to determine whether they want to be the person to tell this story or not. But still, the final decision does come down to the casting director and the people working behind the scenes making the show or whatever media possible. So what does this mean for the industry overall? To put shortly, I feel like the industry has a lot of work to do when it comes to combating colorism and just their different castings when they're looking for diverse roles. Because as they expand who gets cast, they also expand the general consciousness of what it means to be Black or non-white in these stories. Because as representation goes, the more you put out there as media that can be consumed, the more people are able to see themselves and resonate with these characters and put themselves in these situations and see what's possible for them. Just seeing themselves be represented in media. And I feel like you just don't see how important it is until you see someone that looks like you or has a similar experience to you on screen. But on the brighter side, I do actually see things starting to change for the better. Like very recently, we're starting to see a more wide variety of Black and brown complexions on screen. Like I'm thinking of Caleb McLaughlin, who plays Lucas on Stranger Things, Eric on Sex Education, the entire Blood and Water cast, the entire Bel Air cast, Calliope on First Kill, Davey on Never Have I Ever, Outer Banks on the new season coming up. The two Black characters on the show have darker complexions. I feel like this is something that is going to get better and we're going to have more diversity both in race and in complexion on screen. We just have to make sure that as a society and as consumers that we keep on applying pressure on casting directors, on people in power to show that we want this, that this is important, because at the end of the day, as sick and twisted as it is, most execs and casting managers are working on the purpose of them being able to make money and make returns. So whatever would make them the most money, whatever would get them the most viewership, they'll pretty much do. So it's really important to support these shows that are trying to do it right. I personally am still waiting for a dark-skinned love story, whether that be queer or not. I just want it. Oh, I almost forgot. Insecure. Insecure does a great job of both casting and tackling colorism, both inside and outside of the community. And Jordan Peele movies. I feel like now that I'm thinking about it, movies, television, and media that are made by Black people and directed by Black people, produced by Black people, tend to do it right because they actually see the stuff that's going on and are more intentional about it. That was just a last thought that I had. But yeah, those are all of my thoughts for right now. Now I want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about all this. Have you noticed this being a trend? Do you think it's a big deal or not? Do you have any recommendations for shows that are doing it right? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Again, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and follow me on my social medias at Imurgency. But other than that, y'all, I've been Imurgency, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.